developing. Okay, so we'll be developing a custom PowerShell script. More like we are going to fix and match it, and we are going to perform file extension spoofing, okay, to look like a different application. And then finally, we are going to use all of these techniques together with what we learned yesterday, which is social engineering using Gofish framework, okay? So for today, these are the tools required for today's activity. At first, Gofish. So we have already installed it yesterday. For those who have missed yesterday's session, maybe you can refer to yesterday's recording on YouTube, how to install Gofish framework on your Linux distribution. And secondly, we need this PowerShell script, which I developed during an engagement earlier. So we need to use this credential stealing PowerShell script. And finally, we'll be needing batch to exe converter. Okay, YouTube channel link. Let me check here. Okay, I think you can check it out on your WhatsApp group. Okay, so they have posted it there. So the final tool we need for today's activity is batch to exe converter. So this is very important. We have to use this. Okay. Okay, this is our mission overview for today. Yesterday we had a different mission overview, and today we have a different objective that we need to accomplish for today. Okay. At first, we are going to be starting off from the development stage, where we are going to develop our custom credential stealing malware. And next, we are going to masquerade it as though it's a Call of Duty installer that matches yesterday's objective. And then we are going to spoof a malware as a PDF file as well. Okay, so we have two types of attacks today. One is masquerading, which we performed yesterday. Today we will be learning how to masquerade as a PDF file or an Excel file or any other applications that look like different execution. Okay, and finally we are going to deliver the payload through our social engineering attack, which we developed through Gofish framework. And finally, we are going to compromise the victim machine. Okay, so today what's really different from yesterday's session and today's session is, today we are going to steal credentials from the victim, and we'll be using the credentials for tomorrow's post-exploitation activity. So this is very important for tomorrow's activity as well. Installing a malware is good enough to get a foothold in a machine. But then when you have a credential, it gives you more access to any organization's database, organization's applications and internal tools and etc. So that is very important when it comes to any engagement. Okay. So that's the brief introduction of today's activity. Okay. And let's get into our Windows machine. So today's activity is mainly on our Windows machine, because since we are going to develop malware for a Windows machine, we have to work on a Windows machine to check whether the functionalities are working as intended or not. And then we can distribute it and also get a share after that. Okay, any questions so far, guys? Okay, no questions? No questions. Okay, good. All right. So first thing first, okay. No questions. Okay, thank you for the response. Okay, first thing first, let's head to our GitHub page. Okay, so I'm going to go to my GitHub page. So I'm going to share the link here. Okay, so it's okay. This is the GitHub page. So you guys can come here. And what we're going to do is, as you can see, there's many repositories here. We are mostly interested in this repository, which is SMTP Invoke Credentials Fish. Okay. So bear in mind that let's go through briefly what this is about. Okay. There's a disclaimer. So these scripts are only for education purposes. So if you guys are using this to perform any damage or any malicious activity performed using this script, I wouldn't be having any liability for that, okay? And we have two different versions. We have version for Windows 8 and Windows 10. For Windows 8, we will be stealing credentials through the credential prompt, okay? Credential prompt method to get the victim's password. Second, on Windows 10 version, we don't have Windows PowerShell credential prompt in Windows 10, okay? But we have Windows Defender security prompt. So what this does is it's going to prompt as though as Windows Defender requires credentials to perform an activity. Maybe there's a malicious activity in your machine. We need to perform a scan and you need your credentials, something like that. Okay. So it looks legitimate for a user to enter password in the password field. So it won't be suspicious for them. Okay. So these are the references from where I got some of the scripts. So this is the original script, invoke login prompt, and also you can get it from invoke credential fish from Nishang's. Nishang, if you Google this, Nishang GitHub, GitHub. This script is written by an amazing guy called Samrat Ashok. So he's really good. He's really good in Active Directory pen testing and stuff. If you guys have learned about penetration testing, Pentest Academy, I think, if not mistaken. Yeah, Pentest Academy. So that's the guy here, Nikhil. So this is the guy who wrote the whole framework. And some of the functionalities I've taken from this script to implement in my custom script. Okay, so you'll be using this script for today's activity. So first thing first, let's git clone it, clone the repository. For that, I'm going to open up my command prompt. So let's change to documents. All right, and let's make a directory called workshop first to stay what we call to stay organized. Yeah. So we git clone it. Okay, before that, some of you guys might not have git clone on your machine. So to have git clone, you guys can go to git bash, git bash, and you can go to the download section and install it on your machine. So Linux comes default with Git, but Windows doesn't have it. So you need to install it. So after installing it, you will be able to perform Git git operations from your CMD. So I'm going to do a git clone here. Okay, enter, give it some time, and done. So now we have a directory called smtp invoke credentials fish. So let's open up our file browser. First, we can close this for some time just to save some RAM space, okay? And now we have a workshop, okay? So this is our folder that we are going to work today, all right? So since I'm using a Windows 8 machine, I'll be using the Windows 8 version of the script, okay? So if you guys are using the Windows 10 version, then you can use the Windows 10 version. But I would recommend you guys
to the compress చేసుకుంటుంది కదా కంప్రెస్ చేస్తే అది ఫస్ట్ అప్లికేషన్ షేర్ చేసేది చూడు.
Yeah, Mahida, your mic is on. Okay, all right. So previously I've mentioned that it's better for you guys to install Windows 8 on your machine so that we can go through any technical difficulties during the session. So if you guys are using Windows 10, I won't be able to help you guys during this process. Maybe you have to troubleshoot on your own. But it doesn't have much difference. It is literally the same script but different functionalities. Okay. So if you guys are able to edit the script, then you must be able to edit Windows 10 script as well. So it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. So first thing first, let's open up this in our right click this and click edit. So it will open up Windows PowerShell for development purposes. It's really nice. Okay, so it's literally like a Visual Studio, but it's for Windows PowerShell. So it looks really nice. Okay, so you can close this. So if we run the script, we'll see the output over here. All right. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to briefly let you guys know what's happening in the background of this script. Okay. So first thing first, as you can see here, there's a function called Invoke Credential fish. You can change this function name. It's literally like other programming languages. Function, you can name any function you want. So at the final point of the script, we can invoke the function. So as you can see here, we have multiple parameters. Okay. So what it's doing is okay, if you can see here, UI.prompt for credential. So this is the function that I mentioned earlier that is used in Windows 8. Powershell credentials prompt. Okay. So when it's going to prompt, this is the message that is going to prompt for you. So it's going to say credentials are required to perform this operation. Please enter user credentials. You can change this to anything you want. Maybe you can say that credentials are required, or maybe you can say that company policy or anything that suits your what is it? Your suits your technical engagement. Okay. So during your engagement, whichever situation you face, you can change based on it. Okay. So for this, we are going to leave it at default because it is really easy for victims to enter passwords just by looking at this. Normally, when anything pops up asking for your credentials, you just type in your credentials because we will be in a rush when we are doing development or we are doing a very important project in a workspace. Okay. So we won't mind just giving out credentials in our Windows machine if it's popping up. Okay, cool. So next thing, as you can see here, it's taking the username from the environment variable. That means whichever user is running this executable, it's going to take the username of the user and it's going to prompt in the credential box. So next, what it's going to do, if the user enters any credential, since Windows utilizes Ldap protocol, so if you can see here, Ldap is very important in any Windows machine. Why use Ldap? Ldap actually helps you to keep track of every user's email addresses, every user's username, password easily without any database. Okay. So by default, Windows has Ldap. So what we can do if we have any credentials, we just try to log into Ldap protocol. Initially, if the system administrator has disabled anonymous protocol for LDAP, then we cannot log into LDAP. If an attacker is able to log into LDAP, they are able to retrieve information such as computer names, usernames, and then what are the domain controllers, when the password is last set for this user, and these informations are very critical for any penetration test or red team engagement. Okay. So by having credentials, we can test against LDAP to see whether the credentials provided is valid or not. So this is where the checking is performed. So as you can see here, it's validating the credentials. If the credentials is correct and the domain name is correct, then it's going to send an email to us as an attacker. Why the script needs to send an email address to us? Because that's the way for us to know that this user has a specific credential that we have fished. We do not need to create a website, a trustable website or a clone website to get a credentials username or password. We can just use a script to just prompt showing that you need a password to perform this operation. So they will just put in their password and we get the password through our email address. So this is our operation today. And this operation always comes at the end of any penetration test or red team engagement, where in the stage where we perform exfiltration. So exfiltration is basically where we exfiltrate files, credentials, database, and stuff. Okay. So this is where malicious attackers also perform this activity. Okay. So now, as you can see here, this is a variable. We can name our variable anything we want. So I have entered here our username. and the user variable is going to refer to what the user has entered in the credential box, and the password is going to refer to the what the user has entered in the credential box, and also the domain name, same thing here. So it's going to just send this thing to our email address, and the subject for our email address, you can change it to whatever you want. You can say system credentials hijack, valid creds. So what's the good thing here is it's checking for the credentials whether it is valid or invalid. So if it's valid, it's going to say valid creds. If it's invalid, it's going to say invalid creds. Okay, any questions so far, guys? Any questions? Any difficulties? No. Okay, good. Okay, just give me a second. Okay. So all good? Okay, so now what we're going to do, we are going to configure our PowerShell script with our credentials and also our email address and password. Okay. So I want to remind you guys, I'll be using an email address here and the password is exposed. Okay. So just please don't go and destroy the email address. Okay. So if anyone have done anything wrong to the email address, so I won't be able to perform other activities. So we won't be having a smooth session. Okay. So if you guys see any password here or anything, don't go and abuse that account. Okay. I'm just going to give a disclaimer there. Okay. So if anyone have performed that, I'm able to trace back who has performed it and everything. Okay. So at this point, we have configured the SMTP server to be smtp.gmail.com. It's a Gmail SMTP port. And we are going to configure the username to our username that we used yesterday, which is phishing, okay, at gmail.com. I know phishing is spelled wrong. So during my engagement, when I created the account, someone has created an account with a H. So I just removed the H. So phishing@gmail.com. SMTP password. So guys, I just remind you guys, any password you see here, do not go and abuse it, okay? Phishing. Okay? So I'm just giving a easy password so that we can perform our demo and stuff. Okay. So mail to, what we're going to do with mail to, we are going to send the email address to our own attacker email address because we want to know the credential. We don't want to send the credentials to other person. Correct or not? So mail from same thing, attacker, phishing@gmail.com. Okay. Mail subject. Okay. What we can do here, we have two tasks performed by this PowerShell script. The first task is when a user clicks our executable, it sends a beacon back to our email address saying that, hey, the user has clicked our USB link. Okay, so what we can do here, we can say that payload executed. Okay, so we can just put this here, mail subject, anything you want, anything catchy. So I have created a variable called content and output. Okay, output is going to be, yeah, output is going to be the where is it? Okay, leave it for now. I'm not sure where is it. Okay, let's come back to it later. Okay, so if you see credentials here, it's going to use our credentials here and change it into a PowerShell credential. Okay, and next, our first email is going to be sent using this. So what is going to happen now is when a user clicks our executable, it's going to run this command, whoami command. It's going to run host name. It's going to run ipconfig. And now I have added a placeholder called username, hostname, and yada yada, IP output, and new line. Okay. So I have created a variable sysinfo concatenating all of these things into a line. Okay. And next, what we're going to do is we're going to send that email to our email address. So same thing here. Same thing here. So as you can see here, okay, same thing here. But the thing is, I think the script is repeated twice. So what we're going to do, we're going to remove one part of the script. So as you can see here, this is the starting of the function, correct? So from here, remove until up because it is repeated twice. Okay, remove this. Okay, my Windows didn't respond. Let me just remove back. Remove this. Okay, so let me just remove like this. Okay, remove this. Remove this until the second function. Okay, so this is the start. That means we'll be having only one function here. Okay, so this function is going to send our credentials and enter back your email address, guys. Okay, so your own email address here. The same thing I did before, your attacker email address. So this is where the credentials are going to come in. Okay, permasphishing@gmail.com, your password. Okay, and same thing here. Okay, WebEx is making a fuss at me now. All right, so let me just copy this, paste it back. Okay, works. Paste this here, works. Okay, now we change the subject to payload executed. Okay, and we put an exclamation mark. Okay, and all good here. Content equals to output. Okay, that one just leave it. And next, these are the things it's going to run in our PowerShell. PowerShell is a script, so it is able to execute the command we have specified here. So as you can see here, everything is concatenated under this variable called sysinfo. And this is the first part where it's going to send information about our target system before phishing for their credentials. So we have an overview of who clicked the link and what's happening in their infrastructure or what's happening in their machine. Okay. So next thing, the next thing PowerShell is going to do is it's going to send an email message. Okay. So this is a default email message. Send mail message to mail to. Mail to we have specified here. And everything is specified up here. So you just have to configure this and remove the extra function before. Okay. So now you have only one function. So as you can see here, okay. So you see here, the first email is sent for system information. And next, what it's going to do is send second email if user enters system credentials. So if any user enters a valid credential, if a user enters credential in the credential box, it's going to send an email. Okay. So what we're going to do now here, we have 2 times here. So let's just remove this. We have 2 functions. We are performing cleaning operation here. Just remove this. And now what we have is, we have a first stager, which is, it's going to send, this is the most important part. It's going to send the system information. And next, it's going to invoke credential fish. So invoke credential fish, if you remember, it's the function we specified up here. So if you take a look, it's going to operate all of this, and it's going to send an email address if it's a valid credential, and if it's still going to send an email address even if it's a invalid credential. Okay, are we clear, guys? Okay, during forensics, one can see the attacker email or not, because if you analyze your piece, yes, that is correct. But what we're going to do is, we are not going to drop this PowerShell script on the machine. We are going to change it into an executable. Okay. Another thing, guys, even though we have converted it into an executable, it is not recommended to perform it this way, which is we have hard-coded credentials in here, which is very good for forensic analysis and it can burn our cover. So tomorrow, I'll be teaching you guys how to do all of this from a C2 framework. So what we're going to do is, we're going to specify all our credentials and everything, every outgoing and incoming traffic from our command and control infrastructure. So in that way, any forensic analysis cannot be done because they don't know the credential. Mail sent for each invalid attempt. Yes, because you can disable it. But the thing is, why I'm asking you to send email even if it is invalid creds, because, okay, just admit guys, let's say if we are logging into an email address or any website, we won't get in our first try. After a long time, maybe we might have confused with different credentials. So what happens if a user thinks that this is the credential of our machine, but then he enters a different credential that leads to another infrastructure or another personal email address or any application? So we want that information as well. So who knows, maybe that credential might be available in different computers. Maybe that credential might be available in a admin domain controller. So we have to grab everything that is given by our user. We have to steal everything. Do not leave it just because it's an invalid cred on this machine. It doesn't mean that that credential doesn't work in another machine. Okay, are we clear guys? Okay, cool. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, I'm gonna open up my email address. Okay, let me just get it here. Just sign this out. Okay, so firmware phishing. Okay, just give it some time. Firmware phishing. Okay. Okay, all good. We have entered our account. So let's go to our Gmail address, gmail.com. Okay. So it's taking some time. Just give it some time. Okay, any questions, guys? Any query you guys have? Great logic. Okay, cool. All right. So now we have an empty inbox. Okay. We have an empty inbox. So what happens if we run this? Okay. Let's try to run it on our attacker machine. So this is our test machine. We have to test run everything before sending this to our victim so that we don't have a great failure rate. Okay. So let's increase it. Let's run this. And as you can see at the background just now, we had a CMD prompt. Okay. So if we refresh this, and boom, you see here, it says payload executed. And it gives us our username, our host name, our IP address, and voila, we got this basic information. And as you can see here, it has popped up a credential box. So let's say if you are doing an installation, it is very common for Windows to prompt you for credentials. So just imagine we are using our Call of Duty installer file as our cover story. So when the user is installing that Call of Duty file, he might be thinking, oh, maybe my Windows need my credentials to perform this installation. So he'll just go on, just enter his password. So let's say I enter an invalid password. So I say invalid password. Okay. So I click enter. Until you have a valid password, it's going to run in the background. Until you enter a valid password, it's not going to go away. So just give it some time. One downfall about this is it's going to take some time to receive the email address in your mailbox. Okay. Give it some time, give it some time. Okay, so it prompted this, right? Okay, now let's refresh. We should be getting an inbox. Okay, looks like we are not getting an inbox. So something has screwed up in our script. Okay, so what we can do, is, let's go back. Okay, maybe I enter my valid credentials first. Okay, valid credential, let's check back. Because sometimes our script doesn't work. If it doesn't work in our victim machine, then we are screwed. We are really screwed. So maybe what happened here is we removed the functions. So maybe the functions have been screwed up or something went wrong in the background. Okay, so what we can do now, let's go back, let's restore back our script. Okay, let's go back to our GitHub page. Okay, so as you can see, it's not working. It's not sending our email address. Okay, let's try back, no problem. So you go here, Windows 8. Okay, draw, copy this. Okay, go here, paste it in here, save it. Okay, we are not going to perform anything here. Okay, we are just going to change the username and password item only. We are not going to touch anything here. Okay, so famous phishing at gmail.com. Okay, sorry about this. Webex is giving some trouble. You know, whenever you activate hotkeys, it just becomes something like this. It's frustrating. Okay, so what we have here. All right, so good. Next, we copy this again, go for the password. Okay, password. Okay, next this and this. Okay, and we just say payload executed, same like before. Okay, same thing here. What we're gonna do is we copy the same thing, it's going to be the same thing down here. We can take a look here, it's going to be the same thing. So why want to waste the time to enter all of it? Instead, you can just copy paste it. But only thing that is missing here is SMTP port. So you just copy this, okay, enter here and remove this whole thing out of here. And we are good to go. All right. So all good here, all good here, all good here. No need to change anything. Password, all good. Okay, let's run this back. Let's take a look at our inbox. And as you can see, the payload executed. Okay, same thing, all good here. So let's check out with invalid creds. Let's say not valid. Okay. Okay. Wait a while. Okay, wait a while, wait a while, wait a while. Okay, something is going wrong here. Maybe something is wrong here. I'm not sure what is it. Right? Let me take a look at my old script. Those 8. Okay, let's edit this. Or maybe my password is wrong. Okay, let's stop this for a while. Okay, let's stop the operation here. Okay, let's take a look here. Our rail password. Okay, 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 okay. All right, let me just run this, guys. And I'm going to take a look what happens here. Okay, payload executed. Okay, we have this here. Just give it some time. Okay, something is wrong. Not sure what's happening here. Maybe check our spam. Nothing here. Will antivirus detect base payload? Yep, this payload will be flagged by antivirus. If we no, it is actually prompting. Okay, but just give me a second, guys. Maybe something is wrong here. It's not sending an email to our. Okay. Performance phishing. Okay. Okay, I think I know what's going on here. We don't have an SMTP port option specified here. Okay, so as you can see here, if you see here, we have an SMTP server and SMTP port. So what happens up there, we don't have a port specified. So most probably we have that issue here. We have to handle, okay? So that is where we have to do our debugging and stuff in order to make sure that our script works, okay? So adding this port option here, SMTP port. So as you can see here, we don't have an SMTP port specified. So copy this here from here and the same thing up here as well. Okay, maybe it got deleted during the process. Not sure why, what happened. Okay, let's run this again. I hope it works. Okay, payload executed. Okay, now what we're going to do, okay, let's wait for the credential prompt. Let's see whether it works or not. Okay, so now I'm going to do an invalid, okay, enter. Okay, try to refresh it. Okay, same thing happening. Not sure why. Okay, not sure what happening here. Okay, now I'm giving a valid cred. Let's see what happens here. Okay, something is wrong here. All right, something is wrong. So let's debug it. It's part of the process, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to debug this now. Okay. So let me go back to my previous thing. Let's open it. Let me just debug this, guys. Just give me some second. Credential, server. Wait, let me take a look at this. Credential stealer combine. Okay, let me just copy this because this worked yesterday. And yeah, actually, I have already disabled Windows antivirus, but something is wrong with the script. Maybe something is wrong here. Let me just take a look. Maybe we can find what's wrong here. Okay. So is the while loop is running, function is good. Okay. Okay, maybe what we can do, local creds, system subject, SMTP server, SMTP port. In the second email, maybe script is missing. Yeah, wait, let me check. SMTP port. Credentials. Five eight seven. Okay, all good here. Maybe something here. Yeah, we are missing a port here. Correct. Yeah, let's copy this. So copy this here. Right. Let's try to run this. Okay, we have a third request. Let's see whether it holds or not. It runs or not. Finger crossed. Hope it works. Okay, so invalid. Come on. Come on. Yep. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, we got it. All right. So as you can see here, so what I'm gonna do, okay, wait, let me check my chat. Great. Okay, cool. Okay, can we show until correct password? Why prompt is disappearing? Okay, just now I was trying out my valid test and also invalid test. So that's why it disappeared. So as you can see, invalid, when the password is invalid, it's not going away. It is still prompting it. Okay, and it will not be prompted by antivirus because this script is it's not hosting any malicious software or anything. So it's not going to flag it as far as I've tested few months back, but not sure about now. Okay. So for your own safety, maybe